Wouldn't it be amazing if you knew exactly what your audience was thinking all the time, what they really wanted, what they really believed, and what was really holding them back from potentially buying from you or hiring you as as their coach or the product or their service? Well, I'm going to show you today how you can actually do that. Get inside the mind of your customer's head so that you can write the best possible Facebook ad copy, so that you can get clients via automation on a 24-hour basis, coming to you instead of trying to do all the hustling to get in front of them. So if it's the first time joining one of my lives, I'm Brian Czekanski. I help mom-focused businesses use Facebook ads to scale their business and cut their work hours in half. And I'm happy to introduce my opt-in below, fullconfidenceads.com. You can log into that one. It's a free resource, all video trainings that walk you through, even if you haven't used Facebook ads before, walk you through a 5-step process to get started right away so that you have confidence in going out there, launching ads for your business, even if you're doing it for yourself, and start getting that automated flow of clients that you've seen everybody else enjoy. So what I'm going to talk through today is actually just a audience kind of research process, kind of all the different methods that you can use to start to get to know your audience, what they're really thinking, and how to start using that within your marketing so that you can write better ads that are more effective, lower cost, but ultimately getting more results along the way. So what I'm going to do is kind of just share my screen right here. Just give me a second to do that. Get right here. Okay. So again, I've got 7 different ways on this sheet, and I'm going to show you different examples in just a second on for each of them, what you can actually do and how to actually put these methods into action. Again, for each of your audiences, again, my focus is always on those businesses that have moms as their audience. So this works really well for certain areas of in certain industries. I'll provide disclaimers along the way. So there might be, out of these 7, you might not be using all 7, but you're going to find 3 or 4 that are really going to get you inside of the head of your customer. You're going to improve your marketing along the way and ultimately get more conversions from your ads. So the first thing is really just talking to your audience, like starting those conversations. Those conversations are going to lead to relationships. It's going to build up build up your brand over time, but it also gives you amazing insights in their own words about what they are thinking, feeling, what they're kind of discouraged by, those kind of things. I get, there's kind of almost on a weekly basis or a daily basis, I see a lot of business go out there and say, I launched my product and it didn't quite meet my expectations, or maybe I didn't get any sales, and I don't really know what the reason why. And if you have an email list and you're going out to an email list, or you have connections on social media, or you're in groups where your intended audience is interacting on a day-to-day basis, those are perfect opportunities just to reach out to those people. So let's take an example of, you just had a launch, it didn't quite meet your expectations, maybe you didn't get the sales that you're looking for. That's an easy opportunity to start sending some personal emails to your email list and say, hey, can you just let me know, like, what held you back from potentially buying from me? Like, what was it about? Like, what would I have, what would I potentially add to this program to convince you to get you over the hump? And not everybody's going to respond, and that's perfectly fine. But the 10% of people that do respond are going to give you that gold. They're going to give you that detail that really digs into, like, what was that key objection? What was that thing that really held them back along the way? Same thing as you're going out. Social media can be a great resource tool for you. So as we kind of go down the list here, you'll see even more instances of how you can utilize social media. But Facebook Messenger can be a great way to start conversations with your audience. If you're in the right groups, and interacting with your prospects on a daily basis, feel free and again, it's good business practice if you are starting to introduce yourself and initiate conversations with your target audience via Facebook Messenger. Add them as a friend, send a message, do some research on them, take a look at their profile, see what they're all about, see what kind of makes them tick, and start that conversation. Again, you're not going into these Facebook Messenger conversations to sell your product right off the bat, because that's only going to turn people away. be an actual human. Do some research on them. It could be 2 or 3 minutes. It could be 5 minutes. Whatever it is. It might be scary the first time that you do it, but be an actual human. Use the resources that you have on Facebook and other, like whatever social media you use. You could, start as easy as just providing some gratitude, providing some compliments to people. Nobody gets enough gratitude or compliments or whatever it is for what they're doing. So start with that in terms of if they just put out a couple posts that you really enjoyed. Start with start with that as a lead in for the conversation. Take a look at their profile. Do they have a dog they really adore? And you can provide some compliment around that. Like really figure out, like, again, as you look around in people's social media, do a Google search on them, see what other links pop up. Those can be great conversation starters. And again, you don't really have an objective here. You're not trying to get to an end sale at the end of the conversation. You're really just trying to get to know your audience a little bit better. What are some of those challenges? What are they dealing with on a day-to-day basis for your subject matter of expertise? Like, what are some of those challenges that might be holding them back from the thing that they want the most? And how would they describe kind of that dream scenario that they're looking for in their own words? And the great part is, in your Facebook Messenger conversations, you can start copying and pasting maybe into a Google Doc. Like, okay, here's how this potential prospect described their dream scenario. Let me put it into a Google Doc. And that really becomes really easy for you when it comes time for you to build that Facebook ad or a sales page or whatever it is. You have this Google Doc of their exact words and phrases that you can copy and paste in there so that you're speaking their language and you are speaking to the reality that they're looking for along the way. So again, conversations lead to relationships, lead to that knowledge that you need to have very successful marketing along the way. But again, do your research and don't try and just pitch your product in that first message or along the way. Be like a lead with value as much as possible, and just be a human in terms of interacting with people. You'd be surprised on how many people are receptive to just having a conversation, because again, most people just get those spammy messages all the time. So if you take a different approach, it's going to make it a lot easier. Second thing is forums. So these are kind of great for, certain parts of, depending on what industry you're in. So what I'm going to do is provide you with an example in the weight loss industry. So weight loss forums, there's a lot of them out there. And I think a really great way of getting to understand your audience. Again, the great thing about forums is a lot of people will set up anonymous profiles, but they're going into forums looking for help. They're looking for guidance. They're looking for knowledge. They're looking to kind of just be vulnerable, kind of just share their problems along the way. So again, if I just go into a Google search and I just type in weight loss forums, there's going to be a good bunch of them that pop up. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is download an extension called Google Discussions that makes it really easy to kind of find these weight loss forums. So if I do a Google search here and I click on discussions right here, it's going to pop up some of the best forums that we have here. So citydata.com, that's one that I've used before. That really has great, it's a pretty big forum. It's got a lot of great, in terms of posts and everything else, really active in terms of some of the forums there. And you get great insight into, okay, what is my audience going through right now? What are some of those horror stories that you might be thinking about? I'll cover towards the end, like, what are you exactly looking for? But again, just spending some time in the forums and kind of, taking a look at, like, okay, if I'm a weight loss coach, can I spend some time within the forums, really get to know these people along the way? And the great part is, like, if you have a resource like Keywords Everywhere, which I'll cover in just a second, it'll give you related keywords that you can type in as well. And then going back to Google Discussions, the great part about this is you can put in some things that might really be relevant to what you're looking for. So it might be like losing weight. If I type in like losing weight, frustrating or frustrated, just kind of typing in some of the keywords that your audience might be typing in. I click on discussions. And it's actually going to take me to select forums that are in there. Again, the discussions tab is a really easy way to go into specific ones. So here's another one, the Fitbit community. You go to a specific post, lose belly fat, frustrated. You go into a specific story. You get the keywords and the language that your audience is using to describe their problem. Again, this was one that goes back to 2015, but that's perfectly fine. You get an idea of like, if I want to be speaking my audience's language, here's a perfect tool to use it. And really, just spending some time in there and really understanding like, what are the outcomes they're looking for? What are some of those fears? What are some beliefs? And what's really holding them back? Like, what are some of those obstacles that are preventing that? And that really gets into some of the objections that you might have to address in your marketing. So that's one. The forums, again, for all the different industries that are out there, that doesn't mean that there's going to be great forums for each, but it's worth taking a look, doing some Google searches, doing Google discussions to see, okay, what pops up from a forum perspective. Again, within the moms audience that I focus on, really brings out a lot of potential opportunities. The other one is Facebook groups. So again, this is one of the first things that I do when I take on a new client. Within a specific industry with moms as the focus. What I'm going to do, kind of as a first step, is I'm going to join all those Facebook groups that are even remotely related to that subject matter, so I can get an idea of the audience. And the best thing is that my news feed almost becomes like an easy way to kind of just get some get some research going. So I can just go into my news feed. I can take a look at some of the posts that are going on within these groups and get a sense for like, what is the pulse of this group? What are what's the language that they're using? What are some of those obstacles? What are some beliefs? What is their, what are their wants along the way? And it becomes just a really great way, especially if you have a narrow focus, especially within a specific niche. Okay, let me just join all these groups, whether competitors or peers or whatever it is. Just join these groups where your audience tends to hang out on a day-to-day basis within Facebook, and obviously find those higher quality ones. There's certainly Facebook groups that are super spammy, and there's no stuff in there, but especially for my audience where it's moms, there's a lot of great groups that are out there. They're really large. So just to give you an example, say that I was kind of focused on decluttering. So pretend I was decluttering coach for moms. Again, if I just type in decluttering, here's a bunch of different groups that I'll like. Again, I would just join as many of them as possible. I would take a look at how many members they have. So all these are really good. Here's one that has 160 posts a day. So that seems a little bit more spammy. So again, I probably wouldn't join that group because, again, if it's 160 posts a day, it's probably just a lot of spam that's going out there. But these at 8 posts a day, 5 posts a day, 10 posts a day, that makes a lot more sense. And I'm just going to get an idea as I go through those groups. I'm going to get a better sense of like, okay, what other keywords can I potentially put in there? So decluttering, I typed in, maybe it's minimalist life I want to type in as a keyword, and let's see what groups are in there. Along the way, you'll get a better sense of like, okay, here's how my audience really describes the problem. Maybe I can use some keywords there and do it in that way. I'll show you in just a second how you can use Google search and keywords everywhere to find some other keywords as well. But again, you want to just get a sense for like, okay, what is my audience typing into the Facebook search bar or the Google search, those kind of things that I can find them right away. And again, get into those groups. That doesn't mean you have to interact with them. If you can go into the comments, that's a great way to start a conversation. That can be a great way to start some Facebook Messenger conversations as well. Just kind of going where your audience really hangs out online, and kind of building that conversation from there. Again, you might get into certain forums. It all kind of builds on each other as you go along the way. The next one is Amazon book reviews. So find out what books your audience is reading. Maybe you, especially if you kind of solve a specific problem that they're going through, like who are those authors within your industry that are, that they'd be potentially reading. And let's go into those, and let's go into the book reviews. So, for this example, one of the recent clients that I had was within the homeschooling audience. So one of the ones that really came out was Sarah Mackenzie as an author. So if I just go down here, I typed it into the Amazon search. In terms of Sarah Mackenzie, I'm going to go to the reviews right here. I'm going to click on the stars. And then it's going to pull up the reviews down here in just a second. I think I just And in terms of customer reviews, I'm really going to focus on kind of the polarity of the reviews. So I'm going to focus on 5-star. I'm going to focus on 1-star. So if I go into 5-star and just click on that to start, what I'm going to do is really, read through these reviews. And again, I'm not looking for those that just talk about how great this author is or how great this book is. I'm looking for those reviews that really talk about, their own story. Like, what are the things that they struggle with? And again, this first review is just a great example of that kind of goes through each of my first 3 years of homeschooling so far. I've reached this and I've begun to question everything that I'm doing. So again, I get a great sense of like, okay, in my audience, as I go through these reviews, I'm going to get a great sense of what their fears are, what their beliefs are, what they're struggling with, all those kind of things along the way. And that's great. And again, I'm going to collect in a Google Doc. I'm just going to copy and paste some of these review language. And that's going to be the great source of research that when I do create my Facebook ad, when I do create my sales page, I'm going to have all this great language that I, straight from my audience's mouth and mind that I can use right away. So there's just an abundance of different research methods that you can use. And Amazon book reviews can be a great way of doing that, especially if you have a good idea of, what your audience is typing into that search bar and what authors they're using. Again, it takes a little bit of doing some research and maybe takes you a couple hours to find those right authors and going through and finding some of these reviews. But I know by the end of it, doing it myself, you're going to get a great sense of, where is my audience sitting right now? What are they struggling with? And how can I best help them? So that's Amazon book reviews. Again, Google search can be a great way. Like, what is your audience typing in to that search bar? Like, if you think about your problem and your solution, like, what are those words? Are they typing in the problem? Are they typing in that potential visualization of what their future is going to look like? And if you do that yourself, like, what are those top blog posts that come up? So if you go into those blog posts, go into those comments and see, like, within those comments, what are these people saying back and forth? Like, what are the key topics that come up again and again and again? All those things, who's running ads, at the top of that Google search that really comes up again and again and again. The other thing is, look at your competition. We've talked about it on several different, videos here in terms of the Facebook ad library. But the great thing about Facebook ads is that you have full transparency into what your competition is doing. So again, go into Facebook ad library and type in the keywords for your industry. Do some research. As you do that Google search, what are some of those key competitors that come up? Who is doing really well from an SEO perspective? Let's take a look at, are they running Facebook ads? And let's take a look at their Facebook ads and their landing page and their sales page. And what are some of those key words that come up again and again and again? Your competition has already done some of the research already. So let's not start from zero. Let's take a look at what your competition is using and saying, not to steal their stuff, but use it as inspiration and see what, again, how have they structured their offers? What objections are they trying to address? What FAQ questions do they have in there? That's all going to inform your marketing to make it even better. So you don't have to start from scratch. You can start and just level up from there. So again, use your competition as much as possible. And the other one is a great tool that I've kind of used, and it's kind of a YouTube type tool. Super cheap to use, but it kind of goes hand in hand with that Google search, and you can use it with Google as well. It's going to give you data around what people are searching for. So if I go down here, again, if I just type in homeschool, if I just typed in homeschool as a start within the search bar, one of the key ones that would come up is homeschool curriculum. That's what people are searching for the most. I think it was 22,000 people are typing that in as a search term on a monthly basis. And if I want to go a little bit deeper in terms of that homeschool curriculum, like, what is the thing that really stands out? Okay, like if I go down the list and I'm a homeschool provider, like, what are the ones that they are typing in the most? You can see right here, homeschool curriculum preschool, homeschool curriculum kindergarten. What I'm going to do is, again, that informs me to, if I'm on YouTube, like, let me go into those keyword searches. Let me see who pops up at the top of the search terms. Let me see what video titles they're using. So from an SEO perspective, what is really working? Let me actually watch some of those videos and see what offers are out there. Are they sending somebody to a landing page? Are they sending them to an offer? A webinar? All those kind of things will help you inform and again, not start from zero in terms of your overall offers overall. So again, keywords everywhere. It's a simple, again, another Google extension that you can use. Super simple in terms of getting the data behind some of the Google searches and the keywords that are out there. Again, we've talked about keywords a lot, not only in terms of Facebook groups, Google search, YouTube search. That's all going to help inform you. You want to know what your audience is typing in there. Another resource that you can use is called Answer the Public. You can type in certain keywords, hit that search term, and it'll give you a long list of related to that search. What other terms are your potential audience typing into the search bar, and you'll get a great resource in terms of that. So all those things come together, and I want to just end on what are we really searching for as we go through all these different methods? And again, just to wrap it up in terms of kind of the methods here. Again, you've got 7 different methods. I added answer the public at the end there as a potential resource as well. So you've got 8 methods in terms of how to get in the head of your audience. And you're not actually going to need all 8 of these. You're going to find 2 or 3 that are really going to work well. Maybe Amazon book reviews has a lot of gold in there that you can utilize. Maybe Facebook groups is a great way of doing that. And you don't have to do as much of the Google search, or maybe having a direct conversation with your audience. If you already have a really big email list, that's a great way to just start sending some personal emails and starting that conversation with the people that have already opted in for your stuff, shown an interest in your stuff before. So again, by all means, start those conversations. That's going to lead to a great source of knowledge along the way. So it's ultimately leading to what do we actually want to find? And this is something that one of my mentors, Kim Krause-Schwam, taught me. Ultimately, what is the research that we're looking for? So, this is just an example from last year, but ultimately we want to kind of get into the head of our audience and figure out okay, what does my prospect want? And actually in a couple of bullet points, once you've done all this research, and again, this is where you can have a big Google Doc and you can kind of just copy and paste all the stuff that you find, and then you can kind of come back to it, and maybe this is draft 2 or 3 or 4. You can kind of narrow it down in terms of the terms that you're hearing, the language that they're using, all those kind of things. And you might have 6 or 8 bullet points in terms of okay, here's specifically what my audience wants. This is kind of the dream scenario. This is what they're trying to build towards, all those kind of things in their own words. You're not guessing, exactly this is what they're telling you again and again and again. And then we go down a little bit further, my prospect fears, what's potentially holding them back? What are those obstacles? If they come to your product or their service, what are they, what's in the back of their mind, thinking about okay, maybe I've tried a bunch of these solutions in the past and nothing has worked for me. So why am I going to trust this person is going to be anything different? So again, really gets down to kind of what are those objections, hesitations that your audience has. Again, if you've had a lot of past happy clients, go back to them and ask their, for testimonials, and really get to this key question, what were some of your main fears, hesitations, objections when you first hired me or bought my product, or all those kind of things. And that's where you copy and paste their exact language into this section. And then we get into what our prospect believes. So again, your audience might have a whole long list of false beliefs that you have to shift along the way. Ultimately, what marketing is kind of shifting beliefs into a place where they're ready to buy from you. So, really have to get an understanding of where your audience sits right now, and, kind of map out okay, what are those beliefs that I have to really get them to along the way by telling certain stories to kind of shift their beliefs. So for example, they might not even realize what the problem that they're dealing with right now. What is that thing that's really holding them back? And by just providing a little bit of education, you can kind of start to unveil some of those secrets or blind spots or whatever it is to make them aware of what's holding them back from what they want the most. Again, we go to kind of those things above in terms of those fears and wants. Maybe they are super close to where they want to be, but there's one small thing that your product or service really solves and gets them to that other side, and shifting their beliefs in that way. But you have to start where they are right now. If you're talking about a belief system that doesn't match up with where they are right now, you're going to be talking over their head, and it's not going to be as successful. And then, get to like, what does my prospect enjoy? Like, what are they like as part of that process? Like, what are they, again, like, what are they building towards? Like, what are some of those motivations for potentially shifting their beliefs along the way? Really important to kind of understand. And then you kind of get, if you kind of take all those sections, you finally get a great sketch of your prospect. And again, this is all in their language. This is kind of all in their head. And you've kind of used all this research. You finally get to the point where you can say, my prospect believes, and they want this and they enjoy this, but hey, guess what? This is kind of, some of the things that are in the way. These are kind of some of the fears that I have to address. These are some of the objections, the hesitations. This is what my competition is trying to address along the way. I think I can do it in a somewhat different way, and that can lead to better results along the way. So think about all those things as you go through, like, what do they ultimately want? What are some of those fears? What do they enjoy? And you ultimately get to a sketch, and it really connects with kind of your offer along the way. So you can kind of tie it to some of the features and the benefits, and, kind of bring some of the emotional language to the fore. And again, think about some of those, like the thing that you'll find in terms of the research is there's going to be certain moments where your audience, in terms of the problem that you solve, it's not going to be something that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's not something that they deal with 24 hours a day. So what you're really going to get a sense for in doing the research is you're going to get some of those trigger moments where, okay, when they're in this environment, when they're in this situation, this is whether their problem is at its highest and they need a solution along the way. And if we can kind of tell that, some of those stories within your Facebook ads and kind of stir up that emotion and get them super motivated, and put them in the frame of mind where they desperately need a solution, that's going to be a great way to move people along and get them to buying from you, or at least having a conversation. So hope that was helpful in terms of all the different methods of doing research. Again, there's plenty of other ways to get into the head of your audience, but those are the ones that I use most frequently with my own offers, but also with clients along the way. If you want to dig into this a little bit more, and I do this in kind of my opt-in below, so fullconfidenceads.com, kind of brings you from, again, kind of from, if you've never run Facebook ads before, starts you out by really thinking about what your offer is, kind of building you towards showing you what buttons to push. It's all based on video, so you can actually just start and stop the videos as you're going through that process, so you know exactly what you're doing. There's no hesitation. There's no there's no chance for being scared about going out there and launching business, Facebook ads for your business, because from soup to nuts, I'm giving you a 5-step process to follow to make sure that you're building Facebook ads that are really from day one, potentially getting you a profit, and certainly getting that lead flow in the door and getting you the right people, and showing you as you build your ads how to analyze them, how to optimize them, and how to make them even better through a simple process. So check that out, fullconfidenceads.com. Let me know in the comments below which of the research methods that you've used for your own business, which have been most helpful for you along the way. And with that, I'll check you on one of the future lives later in the week.